scenario where civilization starts over. Let's get into it. This is season 2, episode 28 of the series, and we can get right into it. So last episode, we saw many things happen, including great expansion into Siberia by many nations over here, being in Japan, where Korea did some expansions, and also a bunch of other things around the world. But also updated some of the layers. Just not this little thing called provinces here. I started to update this. The rankings. Top 15. Yeah, interesting. India is the strongest country in the world. Egypt is number 2. China is number 3. Poland is number 4. Russia is now number 5. Persia over here is now number 6. Yeah. Number 7 is actually the Italians. The Gold Italians. The 8th is actually the Anatolian Union, which just became more powerful after annexing parts of the Green Team and parts of Judea. Yeah. The next strongest country in the world is actually North Scotland, which is the northern Scottish country, and multiple colonies around the world. The 10th strongest country is France. 11th is the British. The 12th is the southern Scottish country. Mesopotamia has actually made it back to the power rankings with number 13. Ukraine has made it back to the power rankings with 14, and Korea is on the power rankings with 15. Yeah. So those are the power rankings of the world, and now we can actually get into the episode. So let's start with the religious situation over here in Poland. As this episode, before the episode ended, a little religious rebellion happened over here with this little blue religion. And it was gained, or applied, or basically declared its independence, and it's going to start the Polish Civil War. So the revolutionaries are going to quickly go ahead and start pushing out in the north, in the southern areas, as that's where a majority of their religion is. But also, like the rest of their religion that hasn't broken away, so they will also work to cut off the Germanicus side of things, and they will be able to border the Brown Team here. And if we do look at the alliance map here, we can see that the Polish are in the Yellow Team Religious Alliance, which means that they are going to get a lot of help from all of these Baltic members here and Italy. Yeah. And even Algeria, since they're kind of connected with the dual alliances. So yeah. So it will be pretty hard for these guys to win, but they can try. Over here where new forces are coming, the Polish want to protect these areas because they're pretty valuable, as the Germanicus state made them economically valuable. So they want to push back the rebellion over here. But the rebellion is also going to have success in the southern country area over here, as it's going to go ahead and work here, as a lot of the supplies are coming from the north directly up to the south bit of the country, and be going ahead and pushing back here, and eventually capturing this major city. But this many supports coming from, or supplies going to here, so this major city will be sieged by the rebellion. Yeah, that's interesting. Well, let's go down straight here to Bulgaria, as rebellion is happening. Over here, wait, is anything religious map related to this? No, but yeah. But well, basically, a little area is going to rebel away, and it wants to basically become its own, Ukrainian state, part of the Ukrainian religion. And this, rebellion here is going to be pretty small, but it's going to quickly be pushed back, and we'll lose a major city. And eventually we'll push back, as more rebellious pockets will be popping up over here, wanting to break away from the Bulgarian state. And while this thing is actually also receiving supplies from the Yellow Team, or the rebellions are receiving supplies from the Yellow Religion, as well, they really like the new Anatolian Union thingy over here. Yeah. So basically the Anatolian Union is also going to be sending supplies up here, and we can check on this later. And now we're going to go down here to the Dutch state. As the Germanicus are going to go on a conquest over here in the Dutch state, and they'll quickly target their capital and capture it, and the Germanicus go on their next conquest, their first conquest after World War Zero, and recapturing this land. And as the Germanicus state looks like awkward, I can say. Yeah. But actually, let's go right up north to Denmark, as we're going to be seeing the Southern Scottish start their invasion of Denmark. The Southern Scottish occupied the Danish region during World War Zero, and they want to take control of it, but they also don't like the idea of fascism. Yeah, they don't like the idea that the Danish are proposing. Yeah, but the Swedish will also go down here and hope to take these islands. But eventually, the Danish will push back these areas in Copenhagen, and South Scotland will actually be able to siege over the Copenhagen Islands, which makes Sweden a bit mad. Yeah. But eventually, the Southern Scottish will go ahead and continue to invade as they capture their capital city and conclude the peace treaty of this war. What's the peace treaty of this war? As Denmark is split, as the Swedish, if I can go over here, back over here for some reason, we'll be going ahead and annexing this little piece of Denmark, and the Scottish nations will be splitting this, as the Southern Scottish actually give this little piece of Denmark to North Scotland, which kind of makes some other nations mad, and yeah, that's interesting. But let's go up north, as we're going to be seeing a union happen between Norway and this blue nation here. And these two will be forming a union to oppose these Scottish powers over here, and we take control over the peninsula, which is interesting, I can say. Yeah. But speaking of over here, the stuff Scottish, yep, that happens as the Catalonians are kicked out of the Scottish alliance and immediately invaded. Are you sure? Yep, that's interesting. As the Scottish nations will start their invasion, as they actually do want to take this rest of this territory, as it will make their trading ports easier to control, and the Sicilian colony easier to control as well. Yeah. And basically, Catalonia is just going to kind of surrender when they lose the capital. Not until the French join the war, though. Then they officially surrender, and we can look at what happens and how this land is divided. This peace treaty, this war, as the French get this piece of land, the South Scottish will be taking this piece of land from there, and the North Scottish will actually take all of this land, which is actually by the South Scottish. Because, if we go over to Ireland, no, let's over in this city in Ireland, the leaders of both North Scotland and South Scotland are having a meeting, and nobody knows what this meeting is about, but they suspect it is something about these two nations and their empires. And well, now we are going to be seeing stuff happen. Wait, what? Oh yeah, what? Well, I'll tell you about this meeting in the next episode. Well, it might be a pretty important meeting about the Scottish nations. Well, as we can see so far, the Scottish have expanded a lot in the Iberian Peninsula. I think it'll be easier to see if I remove this layer. As you can see, the Scottish, the North Scottish, have conquered this entire bit of the Iberian Peninsula. Probably their most successful colony, other than maybe the Quebec colony, and probably the Norwegian colonies. And also, the South Scottish have some colonies over here. And basically, the Scottish have a lot of colonies, and they are looking for more. Yeah. They announced that they're looking for more colonies and more lands to conquer. And, I would be worried if I were you two, Mr. Iberian Nations. Yeah. Let's go back up here now, as these two countries will be forming a union. And these two nations will be uniting, and they will decide to have one capital. And it's going to be over here in this major city, which is basically where this area has a division. No, sorry. I meant basically where it was kind of like the closest city to the division of these two. And this union is open, and it is looking towards this country, as they kind of want to join it. But let's go to the alliance layer now, as we are going to be seeing this thing actually decide to join. What is happening? Yeah. The Holy French Empire, yeah. And basically, the Holy French Empire is becoming kind of large, and it's starting to regrow itself. Yeah. Let's go back to the war, the rebellion stuff. Specifically the Bulgarian Rebellion. As we can be seeing revolutionaries start to push back and approach the capital city of the Bulgarians. And okay, you're kicked out of the alliance. Why you kicked out? Damn no. Okay. The Anatolian Union has just decided to betray Bulgaria, and that's interesting, I can say, as they take the capital city of Bulgaria. Yeah, and Bulgaria is just going to decide to surrender in this treaty and look at the division of Bulgaria. What's the peace during this war? Firstly, the Anatolian Union will be annexing all of this land from the Bulgarians. A new country is going to form up here, and another new country is going to form here. And while Bulgarians will be losing their capital city and having their capital city moved up to a northern city up to here. In talking about these two nations, they will be joined. What? The wrong thing there. They will be joining the alliance. And so will this thing, as they will join the Anatolian Union's alliance. Yeah. But well, it looks like the Anatolian Union is starting to grow. But apparently, it seems like, hey, the Anatolian Union can't really expand much, as they have a peace treaty up here, and their allies are here, which they can't really defeat both right now, and they have Egypt to the south. And the Anatolian Union does want to expand, but they can't. So what do they do? Oh, they will decide to form a new type of alliance, and I will call this, if you know Wixel Season 1, you might recognize this type of alliance as the Union Alliance. And in Season 1 Wixel, this was used by Austria and the Green Team to take over Europe. And basically this Union Alliance is going to act basically like an alliance that functions kind of like the nations together, but at the same time they're not. And who's going to be invited to this? And apparently anybody is going to be invited to this except Egypt and Mesopotamia. That's interesting. Yeah. But who will decide to join this alliance? What? Did Persia just join with the Anatolian Union? And who else joins? Oh, you joined too? Yeah, that's interesting. But India is like the Persia. What? What did he just do? Yeah. India, if you can't tell, does not like the actions of Persia to the slightest. And especially since they have lost a lot of control over trade routes to this. And while India is going to decide, nope, we are done. We do not like these actions of Persia. They just betrayed our alliance, our influence has ruined, and you just ruined your entire, and you just kind of teamed up with one of our main enemies. And while India is going to go to this major city and start an operation that is invading Persia. India sends troops into Persia. And very quickly, tensions start to rise between this Union Alliance and India, as India kicks the Persians out of their alliance. Well, that's self-explanatory. Mesopotamia starts to prepare for war. Arabia starts to prepare for war. And also, other nations are going to decide to choose sides in this pretty large conflict. This nation is going to decide to join the Union Alliance, and Central Asia doesn't know who to choose. They don't like either of these guys, so let's just see what's going to happen. Well, they choose a side, and that side is actually going to be the Russians. Yeah. Well, what other shape can I use? Because the Scottish Alliance already exists. Just use... No, what other shape could I use? We've already used square, triangle, diamond, circle. Have a bunch of other shapes up here. I don't really like to use too complex shapes, so how about right triangle? Yeah, sure. And well, that's interesting. These two have made an alliance together. And even Volga decides to join the alliance. Yeah. Intentions start to rise. Yeah. And basically, the Anatolian Union is calling its allies to war and starting to try to get them to put their troops on the Mesopotamian border. But some Caucasian troops are actually going to decide to put their troops on Persian borders, as a lot of them still believe that this isn't really what they were supposed to do. They believe that this is actually like an action against Persia because they're technically their enemies, but a lot of people don't know, as we aren't in a time period where messages just get out instantly. So Caucasian troops start to enter into Persia. And well, this thing has just gotten very messy, and to get rid of the mess, let's go up here. And I'll be keeping trade routes on here. Italian is going to continue to advance over here, and quickly decides to push back. Wait, I should probably turn off alliances here. Yeah. New layer's messing with me. Yeah. And basically, I think trade routes will be better to be turned off here. This rebellion is going to become even more successful as pockets start to rebel over here. And while the rebellion is starting to greatly destroy the Polish government, and is going to take this major city and start approaching the capital city. But then the general gets hired into the Polish military, and he absolutely destroys this side of the rebellion and starts to push back greatly over here. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah. But let's go right over here, as we're going to be seeing a pretty large operation take place, and I might want to turn on rivers for this. Yeah, as Ukraine, what do we take or recapture old southern lands that their empire used to have? And I think if I turn on provinces, I can more clearly see it. Yeah, right there. They want all of this southern land here to reform their once great empire that looked something like that. If you can, no, you cannot see that. Ukrainians will be entering their troops over into this nation and starting their invasion. Very quickly, the Ukrainians will be going ahead and taking the capital city of this nation. People don't really see a point. Yeah, they know they're gonna lose. Ukraine is a top power in the world, top 15 power, but then the number 4 power in the world decides to join in, and yeah, you're not gonna do too well, Mr. Yellow Nation thingy. And well, yeah, this thing is just going to decide to surrender. Peace treaty? Yeah, it's the peace treaty this war. As Ukraine annexes the southern lands, it takes back a lot of their old territory, and Russia annexes the northern land. But notably about this war, basically, that yellow country kind of acted as a buffer zone between the Russians and the Anatolians alliance. And now they're both directly bordering each other, which could cause tensions. And I'd be team here. I'd be afraid you're kind of surrounded by Poland, Ukraine, and Russia all at the same time. Let's get to the Polish situation here. I'm going to be seeing the rebellion continue to push back, as the rebellion is starting to gain a lot more support over in these areas. And the new layer is just kind of confusing me with these alliances. As the Polish rebellion will actually be able to seize the capital city of Poland, and well, the Germanicists decide that in this time they want to take back their land, as seeing that Poland is in a collapsing sort of state, and they want their old land back, so they are going to take it in any way they want. Yeah. And eventually the Germanicists would take back all the old land, but this counts as an act of aggression between this alliance, the 6-point star alliance, yeah, and the 4-point star alliance. And well, these guys down here, all these guys here are still recovering from war. So they say, hey, guys, but these guys here are ready for war. So these guys are going to, down here are going to say, hey, if you give us some land, then will you not invade us? Because we're kind of recovering as well. Since we're a lot smaller and less developed than you guys, we kind of want to live, so can you just not worry about us and focus on Italy? Yeah? And Germanicus will actually say yes. In a deal, some land will be taken over by the Swiss and these other nations, which are just represented by occupation zones for now, as this is basically what the Swiss give up in order to live. And same thing with the rest of these nations here. But the Italians see this as a betrayal, and they start to enter their forces over not only into France, but also into Slovenia, as they capture the capital city of Slovenia, and also, if I go to the religion map, start to form their own religion. This rebellion has very quickly turned one of the most loyal allies of the entire Yellow Religion to one of its greatest enemies in a matter of days. Yeah. And, let's just look at this situation here. I go to the Alliance layer, we're going to see that this thing collapses as they decide to leave. Yeah, wait. Wait. These alliance confused. I forgot this was the Egyptians' alliance. Yeah. Yeah. But also, the Algerians are very loyal to the Yellow Religion, so, this alliance here is going to collapse. Oh, a better shape. I could use the square instead for this. Yeah, the square definitely looks a bit better than the right triangle on the alliance map, so I'll just be using square for Russia's stuff. But basically, the Italians also feel like they got betrayed by Algeria, and the Italians start their invasion of Algeria. And well, welcome to a really complicated situation. As well, countries have started to fight a lot more. Yeah, rebellions start over here, and trails over here happen. Yeah, but at the same time, this isn't the World War. And well, what's gonna do in this episode? Anything else? I need the episode to be a bit longer than this, so let's go over to actually no. Let's go over to the Americas now. Let's do something here. As seeing the Yucatan nation go ahead and well, they should go ahead and explore most of the rest of the Cuban region, specifically this entire island chain. As this nation will go down here and explore a bit more. But also, if we go over here, we are going to be wait, I should probably yes. We're going to wait. Do I have? No, that's trade routes. Like I have a lot of layers here, so it gets confusing. But actually, Mexico is going to decide to go ahead and claim all of this territory. That's interesting, and well, Texas is not liking that. They don't like that. Yeah. Let's go back to Europe now. Specifically here in this nation. As this nation is having a civil war. Specifically, like, one group here wants to join the Norwegians, the Norwegian nation, and another wants to join the Finnish nation. The reason these rebellions are even happening, is because this thing is like such a cold place, and it's super poor considering its location. Like nobody's trading with this thing up here. Like it doesn't even have like a major trade route. Oh wait, it does. But wait, what? Why is the trade routes in the water? I don't know, but well, going to be seeing is this thing wanting to join up with stronger nations such as Norway and Finland. And basically, this thing is just going to quickly get divided, and well, let's just look at a treaty, shall civilization, as this part goes to Norway, and this part goes to Finland. And you kind of can agree that this thing sort of did get something, yeah, that they think, yeah. And the people actually do support this, and in my opinion, this does look better on the map overall, so, yeah. But, let's go straight back down to Europe, as the chaos continues, as the Italians will be making their landing over here in Gibraltar. And then, in the face of it all, the Egyptians start the invasion of Algeria. Yeah, that's interesting. And the invasion of Italy. And well, this is going to start a major war, a few major wars. The major European rebellious war between the Holy French Empire, this thingy, and a few other sides. And also the war over here in India, which who knows what could happen. And, Russia, who knows what they could do. And well, this is not a world war, but these are two major wars that are going to be known as the European Religious War and the Asian Religious War. And that's going to do it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed today's scenario where civilization started over. See, in this episode, we're going to be seeing many more things around the world, and pretty importantly, of this madness in Eurasia. Bye!